China's economy is worse than you think. Transparency has never been a strong point of China. In fact, it is so much so that when China doesn't relay some sort of information to the rest of the world, you already know the lack of information means it isn't good. Hell, even the good information isn't accurate. Now, though we know of many indicators that China's economy isn't doing nearly as well as they would like for you to believe, remember when China stopped purchasing coal from Australia?
State-owned newspaper Global Times reports that China is now targeting Australian coal, the country's most lucrative export besides iron ore. Canberra is alarmed as China has already slapped high tariffs on Australian wine and barley. The Asian country has altogether halted imports of Australian timber and lobster. Ties between the two nations are deeply strained.
Well, as you can imagine, that would have an effect on China's economy as a whole, especially considering the fact that many of the power plants in China use coal to generate electricity.
A brand new coal power station under construction in China's Rust Belt. This is Heilongjiang province, on the edge of Siberia, and the builders are working hard on a Friday evening. At a time when the rest of the world is drawing away from coal, the exhaust tower proudly bears the year of its construction. China is apparently digging in.
We know for a fact that the energy cost in China has been rising rapidly. Furthermore, China now refuses to release coal usage data to the rest of the world. Think about that for a second. That says a lot. When the cost of energy is rising in China and they refuse to tell the world about how much coal they're using, why would a country that punished Australia by not purchasing coal refuse to report the amount of coal usage during the winter? As you can imagine, compared to the average, I'm sure the real numbers would cause some alarm. The Chinese government, Xi Jinping, would not dare admit to doing a poor job, of course. Yet the cost of energy in China continues to rise. Strange, isn't it? I also firmly believe that if China were doing well without the Australian coal, they would report the positive numbers. After all, the Chinese government does like to brag about how they don't need the rest of the world.
China is trying to dupe the Automatic Identification System or the AIS to prevent world monitors from tracking the shipping data off China's shores. China has started concealing the geolocation data of commercial ships flocking into China maritime boundaries. With insufficient data and increasing loss in visibility in the Chinese waters, global shipping companies are now finding it perilous to sail towards Chinese ports. The driving factor behind China's AIS blackout is China's new Personal Information Protection Law that took effect on November 1st. China wants us to believe that a threat to national security is the reason why it has restricted foreign nationals from accessing AIS data. China's commercial ships are a no less threat than its fishing militia or the People's Liberation Army Navy. China to launch deadly missile attacks against enemies using its military vessels disguised as commercial ships. So, China may now step up its efforts to unleash its shipping militia on the world as its criminal fishing militia wreaks havoc in the exclusive economic zones of other nations. The second reason behind China's brazen AIS blackout is its quest to downsize imports and help its crippled economy. Since it would be impossible for foreign ships to navigate safely into Chinese waters, imports into would turn into an expensive hassle. So, badly clogged ports will surely help China rein in its burgeoning imports. The third reason behind China orchestrating this AIS blackout could be to resuscitate its dying shipping industry and provide its own shipping companies with a considerable advantage over foreign ones. China knows it is running a race it can never win. China's nefarious plans to further stir turmoil in the world's supply chains are now out in open, and the world must resort to retaliatory measures to make China taste its own poison.
The next situation to look at is China is now not sharing its shipping data with the rest of the world. And you're probably wondering why this is important. Well, this is something that is very important, and I'll explain. A lot of countries, like China, of course, calculate their GDP and their GDP growth, and they put that number out there for the world to see. As you may or not know, China lies about its GDP growth. In fact, we know it usually lies by at least a half or more.
China has a long history of opaqueness when it comes to reporting economic statistics. Although the communist regime claims the economic numbers it reports are factual, a new report by the New York Federal Reserve shows China's gross domestic product growth volatility is incredibly, and unbelievably, low compared to other countries. The report details how China's reported data is too smooth over time compared to authentic statistics, and debunks it further by comparing it with other sources of information, such as satellite images of nighttime lights, which reveal wider fluctuations in economic activity than the official Chinese statistics. Unfortunately, opaqueness in Chinese GDP growth rates is just the tip of an iceberg of secrecy. As a recent report by the Heritage Foundation notes, how China sets its overall budget, the actual size of its military budget, the relationship among various political factions, and even how specific decisions may be staffed are all elements that the People's Republic of China deliberately strives to conceal.
Okay, in September they reported a quarterly growth of 6.5%, which is the lowest quarterly growth reported by the Chinese government for the entire decade. Not just a year, a decade. This means not only is the government probably inflating this number a little, but probably a lot. The other situation to understand is that outside countries can also determine a country's GDP growth by how well they do. Of course, this is by looking at their import and export. So they can check the records, the shipping data of a country to determine what they think the logical GDP would be. Something that, again, China is withholding to release information on. Again, if China's economy was doing so well, why would they not allow the outside world to see these numbers? Of course, that's because it's not doing well. Other reasons, of course, would be that China wants to hide import information. China has realized the importance of getting its people to purchase Chinese-made products. And although Chinese people really don't like purchasing made-in-China products a lot of times, they do realize that it is a huge advantage. It also gives an advantage to the Chinese military. Because, as you can imagine, when you can look at public and military vessels out in the waters, no one can differentiate between the two in this case because they don't report anything. So what is a shipping vessel and what is a military vessel? Right? So it's not only bad for the financial world, but it is not good for the world militarily. Because, as you can imagine, other countries like Taiwan, have worries about China. Something like the UN, okay, that has placed sanctions on many other countries. China can still do trade with them illegally because they're not reporting what their ships are doing in Chinese waters. Again, very alarming. Imagine for a second that you were Taiwan, you were being threatened all the time, and now all of a sudden you don't know whether these boats are military boats or shipping vessels. So this tells you that China is having a lot of issues with its economy. Not only are they not reporting about their energy, they're not reporting to the rest of the world about their income, they're not reporting to the rest of the world about their import-export. This tells you that the economy in China is failing, that it is doing worse than they want everyone to know. I hope this helps some people understand how the economy works in China. There should be some more videos about economy in China. I think it's things that I'll continue to talk about over the next few videos, as it is a pretty interesting subject. These videos are not very long, but that's okay. Like, comment, subscribe, and have a good day.